I'd like to introduce you to Britain's Israel Folau. Australia's Israel Folau is, of course, the superstar sacked by Rugby Australia for quoting the Bible's teachings against gays. Said it on social media. Folau is now suing Rugby Australia, a huge case, and Australians have donated $2 million to him in just 4 days so that Folau could fight it. Britain's Israel Folau has also been sacked. He's just a student, kicked out of his university course for quoting exactly the same parts of the Bible that Folau did, and in an online debate as well about same-sex marriage. This man also went to court, and yesterday, after 4 years of fighting, he finally won in Britain's Court of Appeal. And here he is.
Hello, I'm Felix Ngole. I'm the student who was expelled from the University of Sheffield for actually expressing my faith in public. And when I say public, I mean on Facebook. I was responding to a question that was put to me on sexual ethics. And as a result, I was expelled from the University of Sheffield. And it's been almost 4 years now. I've been fighting to clear my name. And I'm really excited today that the judges finally ruled in my favor.
A bit more from Felix later, but let me explain exactly what happened and why Britain's Court of Appeal was shocked, as I hope our courts will be, with what's happened to Israel Folau. Felix Ngole is a devout Christian, and he was doing a social work course, as you heard, at Sheffield University. And 4 years ago, he was having a debate on Facebook about a marriage registrar in America who'd actually been jailed for refusing to issue marriage licences to same-sex couples for religious reasons. Ngole explained in this debate why Christianity was against gay marriage, and he quoted verses from the Bible saying homosexual acts were a sin. Now, I don't think they are, but that does seem to be what the Bible says. But a few months later, some anonymous person looked up this debate, actually searched for it, and then reported Felix to his university. The university told Felix he'd brought the profession of social work into disrepute by quoting the Bible. He refused to stop proclaiming his faith, just as Israel Folau refuses. So the university expelled him. Shockingly, a court initially upheld that expulsion. It seemed that Felix couldn't be both a professing Christian and a social worker. And when you think what kindness that Christianity has inspired, all those Christian hospices and hospitals and charities and ambulance services, to say a Christian can't be a social worker seems to me unbelievable. Now, Felix wasn't taking that decision lying down. He wanted to be a social worker. That was his chosen career. So he appealed to Britain's Court of Appeal. And what was said there in the hearings by the university's representative was, again, incredible. That even if the university had learned that some social worker, some student had quoted the Bible in their own church on same-sex marriage or gays, the university would sack them. Here's Felix again.
There are things that were said in court that were actually disturbing. For example, that you cannot express or share your faith publicly. When I say publicly, I mean maybe in meetings or in church or in Bible studies. You cannot say anything that somebody will find offensive. And if they do, you lose your job, your employer will expel you on the basis that you've brought your work or your job into disrepute. And we see that quite often. Disrepute is a word that is generally used so loosely now, so much so that you say something that your employer doesn't like and will expel you.
Again, that's exactly what we've seen in the Israel Folau case. So let me now quote from the judgment of Britain's Court of Appeal, which called out the university for its religious intolerance. this is a judgment that sums up brilliantly the kind of intolerance that in Australia at least has had Israel Folau sacked and his wife persecuted. The court said, the mere expressions of views on theological grounds, e.g. Homosexuality is a sin, does not necessarily connote that the person expressing such views will discriminate on such grounds, and that's true. The court noted that Felix himself had never discriminated against any gay, and so you could say exactly the same of Israel Folau. But it gets better. The Court of Appeal said Sheffield University's representative made it clear that any expression of disapproval of same-sex relations, however mildly expressed, which could be traced back to the person making it, that would be a breach of the professional guidelines for social workers. And even expressing these views in a church, the court said, according to this Sheffield University representative, even expressing these views in a church, at least in a community small enough for those views to be known and associated with the speaker, would, it is said, be sufficient to cross the line. So even quoting the Christian Bible in a Christian church could see you banned from a university social work course. And here's the last bit from the judgment, which is so telling and such a warning for us too. Because the Court of Appeal is amazed. It says, if social workers must not express such views, Christian views in same-sex relations, then what of art therapists or occupational therapists or paramedics or psychologists and radiographers? It goes through a whole list of people that it might also apply to. If such were a proper interpretation of professional regulation supported by law, no such believing Christian would be secure in such a profession unless they resolved never to express their views on this subject, on these issues, other than in private. And even then, what if a private expression of views was overheard and reported? Because that means we could have children dobbing in their parents as Christians and their parents losing their jobs. We could have, as the court said, we could have Muslims being dobbed in because their religious views are similar on gays. There are people I see on TV these days claiming that the Israel Folau case is just a contractual dispute. Here is a warning. It is much, much more than that. Folau's fight is a fight for freedom. Freedom of faith and freedom of speech. It is a fight for the freedom of us all.